Now, have you ever basked in very much reflected glory, quite likely completely undeservedly so? Well, this week it was me. A result from Guineas weekend at Newmarket last week sparked something in the back of my mind about a distant relation someone once mentioned. And after a bit of research on the back of an envelope, I'm really pleased to welcome to the Luck on Sunday sofa my third cousin, once removed, none other than the 1,000 Guineas winning trainer, George Boughey. You thought you were coming to Luck on Sunday, not who do you think you are?
Absolutely. It was about the last thing I thought I was going to hear when I first turned up, but good to be here.
Yeah, the look on your face when I said we are third cousins once removed. Did you know that your great-great-grandmother was called Muriel and my great-grandmother was called Maud, and they were sisters?
Certainly not. Learn something new every day.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I've said you've toured more TV studios than Grant Shapps over the last week, but you've had nothing difficult to defend. What a week it must have been.
Yeah, it's been great. It's still quite surreal. I think driving here this morning is the first time it really sunk in. A week ago today, we won the Guineas, and no, look, it's what a star filly, and she's come out of it well, and she's been a star since she came in the yard, and it's nice to see her go and do it at 3 and take her form to a completely different level.
And as well as third cousins once removed coming out of the woodwork, have other friends suddenly emerged? Have the WhatsApps and the text messages been piling in?
Yeah, they have. I've still got quite a few to get through, so apologies to anyone who I haven't. But no, look, it was an amazing reception at the races. A lot of my family were there, lots of friends, and you know, it was something really special. I think the last couple of years, winning a classic like that or winning at Royal Ascot, there was no one there, and you know, the reception as she came back in, James rousting the crowd, and no, look, it was a really special day.
He knows how to play the audience, doesn't he, James?
He sure does, yeah.
And so it had a bit of everything, didn't it? Because it was Newmarket, and Newmarket loves to win its own classic races. A young trainer, a horse owned by lots of people who aren't particularly obvious racehorse owners necessarily. James Doyle, very popular character. So it was a sort of the Hollywood scriptwriters, you know, would have had a field day with all those different strands.
Yeah, they would. I actually was at the racecourse a few days before on a panel with Mr. Gosden, and we were talking about, you know, Aidan O'Brien.
Can't you call him John now?
We, you know, there's been an Irish domination, certainly the 1,000 Guineas for a long time, and to have Newmarket win it again, you know, you drive down the trees there, and it was Aidan, and no, look, it's great. She's a special filly, and to do it in Newmarket, it was nice to be back home in 5 minutes and welcome everyone to come and watch it back with us. And
just for those of you who don't do Newmarket on a regular basis, there are banners all the way down the driveway into the Rolling Mile, and there is a lot of mention of Aidan. Here's the race itself, and certainly James wasn't going to take any prisoners here, was he?
No, I was pretty confident that she'd stay. She's bred to stay, and I think I ran her 3 times over a mile at 2, which probably shows that certainly I thought she would. A lot of the press maybe didn't. She loves the track, and we were lucky. We were blessed that there was no rain in the sort of last few weeks, and it was fast ground. And
how important was that?
I think it was important. It certainly helped us. She ran a massive race over 6 furlongs in the Albany at Royal Ascot on heavy ground. So I think, you know, obviously she's the best horse I've had, but most good horses go on any ground really.
And so where were you on the racecourse at this stage? What were you seeing? Were you watching on a TV? Were you?
Well, I was in the paddock. I watched Mr. Angel win the Pretty Polly on the same day last year from the same place. So I think I'll probably watch them all from there going forward.
Same sort of little, almost the exact same X marks the spot.
Basically.
So now what's going through your mind with 2 furlongs to run?
Well, I think, you know, it's pretty clear that we've gone a decent gallop on the front end, and it's a long way home, but she is tenacious, and I think the one thing I did say to James was, you can see the 2 Coolmore fillies there, you know, they'd only had 4 runs between them, and I thought if we did get them off the pump into the dip, you know, it'd be a long way home, but I hope that she stayed out.
And what about Racehorse there?
Well, Race actually I thought was one of the picks of the yard in the pre-parade ring, and she's obviously going to stay a bit further and was hunting us down close home, but luckily she held on.
So what did your heartbeat do in those last few strides?
It's going pretty fast, yeah.
And this is, you know, obviously you're delighted to win the Guineas, but you've followed racing, you've seen trainers emerge. to be second in the Oaks very early in your career and then only a season later to win the Guineas, but don't be too modest for a second. That is quite something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I
Pretty
think,
cool, yeah.
I think on the way home from Epsom last year, it was a bit of disbelief that she'd actually done it. We had to supplement, and Nick Bradley was very open-minded and always is to doing things like that. And I slightly thought, God, we might never get the chance to have a horse run like that in a classic again. And you dream that you can, but to actually do it the next year was it was very, very special.
And what I loved is you said that when you started training, you were dreaming of winners at Bath, and immediately saying, no disrespect to Bath, which is obviously a great course. And the next day, were you there to see your winner the next day?
I actually wasn't. I hate to admit,
but you had the winner of Bath the next day, which I thought was lovely. Was neat.
We've had lots of winners there, and it's very fair ground, fast ground. That's what a lot of our horses like running on, and it was special to have a winner there. Part owned by my dad the next day. He's got a small share in it, and he's a brother to Mr. Angel as well, so a bit close to the heart there as well.
And I think what worried me, when I was looking at the field, all those races at 2. So there are some horses that have lots of races at 2. They do well. You hope they're going to do even better at 3. But she must be some hardy individual.
She is. I also think her battle hardness, probably against some lesser experienced horses, possibly stood her in good stead. I think it was almost more nerve-wracking going into the Nell Gwyn because, as you say, she's had a busy enough campaign. She went to France, she went to America for the Breeders' Cup, and would she go on? William Buick rode her in a couple of bits. Well, her last bit of work before 2 bits before the Nell Gwyn, and he was delighted with her. And obviously, Charlie's filly went to Newbury, and he was pretty confident that she'd certainly be in the shake-up, and to go and win like she did, sort of confirmed to me that she trained on, and physically she looks a better model. She's a lot stronger. She looks almost the finished article physically now for her. And
you didn't go to Bath the next day. You celebrated, quite rightly so. And Newmarket celebrated with you as well. So I imagine the atmosphere on Newmarket Heath on Monday morning and Tuesday morning was pretty good, was it?
Yeah, it was great. It's it's a big community in Newmarket, and I think it's one of the great things there is, a lot of the young trainers now in Newmarket, we're all very good friends, and everyone texting, and I even had letters from contemporary. I know it's going back a bit, but notes that were sent to the yard from trainers in Newmarket, and it was very touching.
And messages from around the world, because you've worked in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Australia hadn't woken up quite, and there were a barrage of messages as they did, and it was great. I think it's the Guineas. It's watched by everyone around the world. And
you said she's absolutely fine since the race. So the plan is now to go to France again.
I think so. Look, that's the plan at the moment. She's been in super shape since. She's moving well. She's never really had a problem there, and I think we didn't even put her in at Ireland. The race wouldn't have suited her there, and
because
it's a stiff mile at the Curragh, and I think if she's able to get a good draw and the ground isn't too soft and she can go forward like she usually does, it's that style of racing's pretty effective out there. I know she went there and it didn't quite work, but she's nearly slipped up coming out the gates. She backed up 8 days from the Albany to the Emperor Stakes at Newmarket and seems to have taken it very well. So not many chances to be a short price for a classic.
So all being well, France and then Royal Ascot.
I think so, yeah. That's the plan at the moment. She could possibly have a break then and then come back to Newmarket at the back end before the Breeders' Cup, which is pretty high on the list, I think.
Not sort of patronising you or whatever, but you're in your 3rd full season. You're talking very happily about Breeders' Cup, France, Ireland, etc. Now there are plenty of trainers who sort of a bit more softly in the early stages, but you're not frightened to sort of consider all the potential races around the world.
I think a couple of years ago, well, even still now, we were dealing with a much lower calibre of horse, and that's what got us going. And we'll never forget that. We'll be at the July sale trying to keep buying horses like that. But I think with a filly like her, she has to be given the best chance to be a very good filly. And as a Guineas winner, I don't think I'd be doing doing her justice if I didn't give her a chance to try and go to France or Ireland.
But you went to France and America last year, so last year you were being bold as well.
Yeah, she showed a high level of ability last year, and I actually called Harry Herbert the Saturday just gone to see if I could put her in the Mary Gate first time out, and
right.
I think he sort of probably couldn't work out what I was saying, but she showed that level of ability that early, straight from the breeze ups.
So what was it? You're standing on the heath, you're watching your string. What is she showing you?
Well, she worked on the racecourse at Newmarket, on the water gallop, and she was just very natural. I think that's probably why we bought her in the first place. She wasn't an electric breezer, she was always a filly who was probably going to get further, but she had a great mind, and she came straight from the breeze ups and probably galloped 2 weeks later and was nearly ready to run. So it was just an immediate professionalism that she showed me.
And you were the underbidder for her, so obviously there was something when you saw her. It was breeze ups, wasn't it? Saw her breeze and saw her in the box or whatever.
Yeah, well, look, we loved her, and John Burke, who bred her and breezed her, sold us Mystery Angel the year before. So it was she was very highly recommended, and then we went to see her and watched her breeze, and there was lots of boxes ticked, and it was actually for Nick Bradley who really liked her, and it was a bit of a battle between the syndicates, and luckily for Highclere they came out on top.
I'm not going to ask you about syndicates now, because we're going to be talking about syndicates on the programme a little bit later on. But going back, when you said, I remember you sitting in that seat a couple of years ago talking to Nick, saying that you'd had a bit of work experience with John Joe O'Neill, and you fell off a bit. So in those sort of days when you were just getting going, your interest was getting going, apart from winners at Bath, what were you thinking what were you aspiring towards?
I think probably where we are now, but I never really dreamt that it would happen or happen so quickly. I've always loved racing ever since I was a child, and it was quite hard to sort of get into racing, but I was very lucky. I worked for some great people along the way, and I think most notably, Hugo, who I spent the last 5 or 6 years with, was very good to me, and yeah, he set me on the path.
He had you running a yard, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I did a couple of years down, literally next door to where we are now. Had sort of 50 horses down there, and when he was growing it, I nearly went to America, and actually he sort of said that this yard was coming up, and it was a great grounding to. Obviously, we stepped back from the 50 horses to the 3 or 4 that we started with, but he let me make some decisions and make some mistakes, and was very open and let me sort of learn on the job. And we had a lot of success down there. We had some good winners down there, and they were sort of fed into his main yard. But it was a very good grounding.
But when talking about buying horses, way before that, you'd bought a horse, Thundering Home, was it called? To ride in a charity race.
Yeah, I think, fortunately, the archives don't go far back enough.
Well, the race, I'll tell you what, we've been trawling through them, desperate to find a charity race at Newbury.
Yeah, there's a mile 5, which is, for someone who's not a very good rider, a very long way. But no, we bought Thundering Home off George Baker. He was, George Scott and I actually, when he was working for Michael Bell, found him, and he was the first horse we bought. I think he started his career at Dunlops. He won from every year from 2 to 10, and he was a cool horse. He was very well trained by Richard Mitchell down in Dorset. And,
that was subsequent, was it? Or was that for that race?
That was for the race, and then he went down and owned by my mum, and I think he cost $4 or $5 grand or something, and he won for 6 or 7 years on the bounce for us.
Yeah, and he won altogether from age 2 to 10, at least something every year, which is quite something. And what did you just hear about him, or did you, was your buyer's eye, was that already in at that sort of point?
I think we were looking for a horse who'd stay, and we were looking for a horse that might be available, and I was just looking through every mile 2 to mile 6 race on the flat at the time, and George Scott called George Baker, and it was kind of Agent Scott, deal done, really.
And where did you finish in the charity race?
5th. I think I probably should have been a bit closer.
So what do you think the form book how would it have described the horse's performance that day? Behind, steady headway, or
very steady headway. Alex Ferguson, James's brother, actually won the race on a bit of a rocket. Went out 15 clear and never got caught. It was in rear, never nearer, I think.
Well, and you mentioned these other guys who are training close by. They're obviously good friends as well. You were all assistant trainers, I guess, at about the same time. I'm imagining assistant trainers sitting around, perhaps in the pub, sort of dreaming of the future. And is that how it works? Do you used to all get together in Newmarket? Because there's so many of you. Obviously, all very close, good friends. Was there a lot of dreaming and, you know, the type of talk that has actually come true for you?
Yeah, absolutely. We're, you know, as I said earlier, there's a big group of us and a lot of us live together. And yeah, I think, you know, it's the natural progression to end up going and training if it can work. And no, it's nice to see everyone doing so well. I think to a man now in Newmarket, everyone's, you know, giving it a real go, and it's a great community and great to see everyone doing so well.
Well, look, congratulations from all of us on last week. Cousin, congratulations. But, you know, I told you I was basking in the reflected glory. I will continue to do so. But no, congratulations. And I think racing as a whole was just really chuffed to see the whole thing for the horse, for you, for James Doyle, for Highclere Thoroughbreds as well. And really, what's the date of the French race?
Week today.
Today.
Off to France.
So you won't
Friday.
be available. You won't be available in 7 days' time. You'll be off to France, and you know the heart will be really beating again, won't it? Would James ride or?
Yeah, he 100%. James will ride. It's it's a long time in a horse's life, a week, but look, if she's in the same shape that she was, she'll be there. And
there are sales in France this week. Are you off there in the meanwhile to try and find the next big star?
Yeah, absolutely. We're off to Arcana on Thursday, I think it is, and trying to find the next star.